Hello, my name's Rafay Alam and I'm an environment lawyer from Pakistan and I'm with the Pakistani delegation here at COP27.
How have the floods in Pakistan affected the country and what is the government doing to alleviate the disaster?
Well, Pakistan was hit by devastating monsoon floods. These weren't floods where the rivers broke their bank, but these were floods caused by unprecedented rainfall. We're talking 500 to 800% monthly averages falling within a week. And the attribution science on this is getting better. So I know that Imperial College London did a study that was published a few weeks ago that states that about 70% of the intensity of this monsoon comes from the 1 degree of global warming that we've experienced because of climate change. Now Pakistan's a very small greenhouse gas emitter. It's only been in existence for about 75 years. There is a promise in the UNFCCC process where developed countries are supposed to mitigate their greenhouse gases, and if they were true to that commitment, Pakistan would not have suffered this devastating flood. Right now in my country there are 30 million people who are going to face a winter without shelter and perhaps without food. You know, there's a 100-kilometer lake that was created because of this rainfall. 100 kilometers, how can you adapt to a 100-kilometer lake? So Pakistan's position here is very clear. We need to have a loss and damage facility for less developed countries, for countries bearing the brunt of the climate crisis, so that they can get back on their feet. The reconstruction costs for these floods have been estimated by the World Bank to be in the region of $30 billion. That's a significant portion of Pakistan's overall economy. We simply cannot get back on our feet because of this climate crisis on account of this particular bill that's been handed to us by this monsoon that was caused by greenhouse gases emitted by the global north. Global south countries deserve a facility like this where we don't have to beg for a loan, where this money should have been there to begin with. The Global Climate Fund has more or less unfulfilled its obligations. It was supposed to be $100 billion 10 years ago. It's hardly that amount today. If those monies were available, countries like Pakistan could have adapted, could have made preparations. And I know you've asked about, the failures of governance within the country. They exist as well, of course, like any other country. We had flooding and we found that people had built settlements within riverbeds, within floodplains. That shouldn't happen. Of course it shouldn't happen. And of course, global south countries need to look within themselves to be able to have a transparent framework so that when loss and damage funds are made available to them, they can transparently show the world that the money is going where it's needed to go and that the country is on a sustainable, resilient and climate-friendly development strategy going forward.
So Pakistan is also open to tie this climate finance to institutional reform, for example, change the way urban planning along riverbanks, for example, happens.
Indeed.
That being said, you mentioned 100 kilometers of lake. There's no riverbank.
There's no riverbank. And given what some scientists are telling us about how we're going to, there are enough greenhouse gases on the planet right now to lock in a 1.5 degree temperature increase by the end of this decade. That corresponds to a certain amount of sea level rise that's going to devastate Pakistan's coastal cities. Devastate. So, how much urban planning can you do for a 10 feet rise in seawater? That is the broken promise of the global north hitting people like people in Pakistan and other less developed countries.
So how do you hope for COP27, now Pakistan being here, everyone being here, donors being here, how do you hope to elevate that, to activate that climate finance?
Well, a couple of things have happened.
Put it in practice in Pakistan.
A couple of things have happened. Well, the delegation is focusing on developing a loss and damage facility under the UNFCCC process. That will, of course, entail designing a system where developed countries give to a fund and where impacted countries can access it. It is a significant achievement that loss and damage was put onto the agenda of this COP for the first time. And it is not just a coincidence, but something we hope to leverage because Pakistan's also chairing the G77 in China, a group of countries going into these negotiations. So we hope to be able to use our example and rally other countries to raise this demand at this COP.
How hopeful are you this is going to be successful?
No comment.
Okay, last question. COP27 in one word.
No, it's going to take place.
My goodness, this place is mad. There are 45,000 people here. And there are no protesters, which is in some ways, I'm wistful about it because protesters say things that negotiators can't, but they open up a space of thought and push the climate agenda forward.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.